If Bunny could press one button about humans, what do you think it would be? What would it
Ugh.
say?
It would be ugh. She is an eye-rolling baby. I remember when we were having all of these crews down at the house, she was constantly telling them to go away. She would say, "Sound settle," which is like, "Shut
Oh.
up." She would say, "Sound settle, bye stranger, go now, all done." And then you could almost see her roll her eyes and just walk away in disgust.
Welcome back to the Doodle Pro Podcast. I'm Corinne Gearhart, your doodle specialist and certified dog trainer. Today, we're back with part 2 of my conversation with Alexis Devine, the human behind Bunny, the Sheepadoodle who's taught millions of us to listen to our dogs differently. Last week, Alexis and I talked about why your doodle's fluffy teddy bear looks tells you almost nothing about the sensitive, intelligent, working dog living underneath, and why the real magic of those famous buttons was never about teaching Bunny a trick. It was about teaching Alexis how to listen. If you haven't heard part 1 yet, I would gently nudge you to start there because it reframes everything we get into today. Because today we go deeper. How buttons and body language work together, whether your own doodle could do this, the funny and frankly humbling things Bunny has to say about us humans, and the exact system Alexis uses. Let's jump in. I discuss a lot on here about how dogs are already communicating constantly through behavior and body language. Did the buttons unlock understanding that then you were able to pair with her body language?
Yeah, for me, the buttons would be meaningless if the button presses didn't coincide contextually with what else was going on in the environment, right? If she presses bird and then goes and lays down in her bed and chews her paw, like, okay, that doesn't mean anything, right? But if
Yeah.
she presses the word bird and then looks out the window and there's a bird out there. So again, we need this multimodal communication because the buttons alone are meaningless, right? The
Mhm.
buttons support the way our learners are already communicating. They give us a little bit more context because our dumb monkey brains are like, "Oh, human exceptionalism. What? We need to hear
Yes.
language." But it switches something in us that we end up listening in a different way. We pay more attention. If she says concerned bird, like the first time she said that was like, "Oh, I need to pay attention when this behavior happens out in the real world and we don't have buttons, I need to pay attention to what she's concerned to." So she
Mm.
says concerned bird. She stiffens. She has a flagging tail. Her ears go back. Her commissure tightens. I'm noticing that body language, which I maybe didn't know what that meant before. I'm
Right.
noticing that paired with bird concerned. And then we're outside in the world. I see that same body language paired with a novel human. And I'm like, oh, this human makes her concerned. Right. So
Yes.
there's this reciprocal learning that's going on. I'm listening in a different way. I'm paying attention more closely because of the things she's been able to communicate with buttons that I wouldn't otherwise have known.
When you don't even have that tool there.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. You're reminding me, I haven't thought of this for years, but one of my favorite books in childhood was Koko's Kitten. And for the younger folks or people who haven't been studying this, it was this gorilla that was given a kitten that experienced profound grief when the kitten was hit by a car, and just the unlocking there. And you mentioned concern. You're using buttons regarding emotion, not just like a transactional open door, treat, food, etc.
Correct. Yeah. We've
Yeah.
explored some really complex concepts,
Mhm.
and it's really tough to say definitively how any of our learners are conceptualizing any of this.
Yeah.
The context, again, is really helpful. I can see when she presses the concerned, it has concerned body language, that there's
Mhm.
appropriate cognitive crossover there. I can see when she presses the happy button and she's loose and floppy and has a soft open mouth and soft eyes, that there's some emotional crossover there.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we have as a community have gotten some pushback on. These complex concepts, how do we know how they're interpreting them?
Yeah.
And it's if there is continuity between the context, the body language, the button that's pressed, For me, it's important to explore these things because I wanted to be able to understand things about her that I couldn't understand at the time by just reading body language alone because I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see how much crossover there was. Like, if I, in a happy state of being, model the word happy, does that translate for her? And then I got curious, like adding a smell button, obviously, right? Because her primary sense is not sight. And of course, when I'm first thinking about what words I want to add, I'm like, oh, you see a bird. Oh, you see a human. But what about the smell? What about what I smell like when I'm concerned? What about how Otter might smell if he's concerned or if he's happy? And how does that experience translate for her? And what can she tell me about how she experiences the world that I couldn't know otherwise by giving her words that seem salient to her experience?
That's brilliant. And I hear your scientific mind at work. And while people are really fascinated about the idea of talking dogs, there is some healthy skepticism inside of the science community. How do you personally balance that curiosity about what dogs might be capable of with what research is confirming thus far?
Yeah, I've had to be pretty cautious. I'm not a scientist. So when I went into this, it was really nice to not know anything about behavior, to not know much about cognition or about dogs because I wasn't inside of any boxes yet that were telling me that this isn't possible. So I felt really free to explore and just to stay curious and open. And as I learned, I became very cognizant of what the challenges were, what the hurdles would be, things that I could and couldn't say. So I've been really cautious and I've always considered myself a hopeful skeptic. Bunny is angry with Tenrec right now. He is being such a cat.
In my head, I was like, she's totally calling.
Yeah.
That cat word.
Lie down, honey. Can you lie down, please, for a little bit? Thank you. Yeah. I think for me, science is about specificity, but it's
Mhm.
also about remaining curious. And from some in the scientific community, I've seen what feels like a lack of curiosity. I feel like I've seen a lot of resistance towards exploring what could be. And I understand that hesitation. And for me, because I'm not an academic, I don't have that. So I've been
Yeah.
able to explore and I've tried to remain cautious and choose my words carefully and, to the best of my ability, tried not to overinterpret. I've tried to learn as much as I can about all related fields. What is AAC? What is
Mhm.
cognition? What is comparative psychology? What is behavior? What does it look like in dogs? What does it look like in my dogs? Because it's different from dog to
Yeah.
dog. So just conscientiously exploring with curiosity as many avenues as possible has kept me pretty grounded in the process.
It sounds like you entered without any confirmation bias and not being restricted by those boxes. And then you've also partnered with the scientific community and program research programs to dive deeper. That's such a great kind of mix and collaboration.
Yeah, it allows me to explore freely and for the scientists to do the science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. One of the members in the Doodle Pro Academy's Honor Society, Toby, she has a beautiful daughter named Adeline who uses an AAC communication device. And her family has just been like nerding out watching Bunny because it feels like this fascinating intersection between human assistive communication and interspecies communication. Have you heard from families who use AAC devices who feel connected to Bunny's journey in that way?
I've heard from some. I think I've tried to be quite careful not to conflate the two because I don't want
Hmm.
to take away from the challenges that human AAC users have faced.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I try to disentangle those two processes. I think it's really valuable what we're trying to explore with dogs. And I think
Mhm.
there is still so much that we can do for humans using AAC to
Yeah.
validate their experience and to lift them up and to center their voices in ways that we haven't. So that's where I stand on that.
I think that's great. And renaming this as AIC, I think helps give respect to humans that are using these systems and technology from what you're doing with the pups. I think that's great.
Thanks. That's definitely what I want.
Good. You talk a lot about the importance of agency for animals. How has Bunny having ways to express herself that are unique changed your relationship with her?
I think the combination of moving to a place where we can really explore that,
Yeah.
and her having the ability to tell me when and where she wants to go, or if she needs some alone time. She can get pretty overstimulated by the boys. Can't we all? But her being able to say, I want to go upstairs for a little bit and just be by myself is really powerful. You wouldn't, I think that's a thing that you might not know without buttons, that
Yeah.
your dog wants some alone time. And just the process of really actively listening and watching and being really cognizant of what her body language is telling me. I've been able to give her buttons for things that I wouldn't have thought a dog would be interested in. I think one thing in particular, her medicine button has been really powerful because she's had a lot of health challenges over the years. So for her to be able to request her medicine has been incredibly powerful.
Yes.
Or to request to be touched in specific areas, and her physical responses to some of that touch. I've learned a lot about what her specific body language means in those settings.
Quick note before we keep going. Alexis and I get into the FluentPet button system in this episode, the one that Bunny uses, and I want to be completely transparent with you. This conversation lit me up so much. I bought a FluentPet kit myself, full price for my Cavapoo Nestle. Nobody paid me, not a sponsorship. I was just genuinely inspired. I'll be sharing right alongside you on social as Nestle figures out his first buttons. And I'm curious to see if any of his doodle friends get inspired to try too. If you want to explore it with me, Fluent Pet is giving Doodle Pro Nation 12% off of their kits with the code Doodle Pro over at thedoodlepro.com/shop/fluentpet. I'll have it in the show notes. It's an affiliate link, so they send a little back my way when you use it, which really just buys Nestle a few extra treats. Okay, back to Alexis. That's awesome. A lot of listeners are looking at their dog and thinking, my doodle has such a big personality. I wish I knew what they were thinking. Do you think communication buttons are something most dogs could learn, or do certain personalities take to it more than others?
Yeah, I think any dog has, or cat. We're seeing many cats with large personalities and lots to say as well. But
They are interested in us.
they are. They are. They have so much to say. It's fascinating. But yeah, I think any dog could do this for sure. And again, it's really about catering to the individual's desires.
Yeah.
I use this metaphor a lot, that if someone were to build a button board for me and they put the words bro and moist on it, I wouldn't use those buttons, right? So if you're building a board for an individual, you really need to be giving them words that are meaningful to them.
You're right.
Some
Both of those would
dogs,
repel me.
yeah.
Yes.
So some dogs are going to be very motivated by play. Maybe they'll have half a dozen toys on their board to help motivate them. Some will be less motivated by food. Some are too motivated by food. So there are, maybe squirrel is the thing. Maybe water is the thing. But it's really important to get to know the individual. I wouldn't have a conversation with a stranger on the street. A conversation with a stranger on the street wouldn't last very long if you weren't sharing an interest, if you didn't have some mutuality in that conversation. And I think the same thing goes with our non-human companions.
Yes.
Find what interests them.
And when we first started our conversation today, Bunny was saying that she wanted to go outside and potty. And a lot of people, when they first train a doorbell or bells at the door, they're like, once my dog figures out that it unlocks the door, they're just ringing it all the time. So, what do you advise your community when they learn the treat button means treat or the outside button means outside? And that's not really on the menu right now.
Yeah. So if all you had was one word, That's the only word you would use,
It's
right?
true.
If all you have is a bell at the door and there are a million things you're trying to communicate, all the human is going to hear is bell, which we think means outside, right? So give them more words, like
Yeah.
give them a larger vocabulary, help them communicate more things. So if you are starting with a snack button, we recommend starting with a few buttons just so that they are able to build some discriminatory skills
Yeah.
right up front. So we recommend starting with 3, like a pets or scritches button, a snack button, and a play button, because those are 3 concepts that are really easy to model multiple times a day right at the board. And they're usually concepts that are highly motivating to all learners. And once they start to learn that they can control outcomes and they're like, yeah, they're just, we call it the spamming stage, then you can add some other words like snuffle mat or bully
Mhm.
sticks that take a little bit longer to finish, that are away from the board, that are enriching, or you can add an all done or a now or a later button or some other activities. Maybe we can go for a walk instead of repeatedly pressing that snack button. So my
Yeah.
my suggestion is always to give them more words, give them more to say.
Yes. That's a brilliant solution. Bunny has become one of the most recognizable dogs on the internet. What has it been like to have a dog whose life and communication is watched by millions of people?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It's been a bit of a wild ride. It was a lot more eyes on me than I ever expected there to be. And the internet's not necessarily a super kind place. So
Yeah.
there's been some experiences that weren't pleasant, but it's also allowed me to connect with so many people in a way that I never thought I would be able to. And I've gotten some really beautiful feedback from the community about ways in which I've helped transform relationships with dogs. And I feel like it really is, it's not me, it's the community that has taken this technology and moved it forward. And I can see the paradigm shifting over the last 6 years in a really powerful way. I think we would have been laughed out of conferences the first couple of years had we tried to go, but we're going to all of the behavior conferences now, and people are really excited to see us. And behavior consultants they have clients that are asking for help teaching the buttons, and these consultants are on board with it because they're seeing some of the positive benefits, the ability to enrich our learners' lives, to help them self-advocate for health concerns because of the way it transforms how we listen to our pets. People are getting on board. And even with just a few buttons, it can really switch something in our brains that allows us to connect on a deeper level. And I think that's incredibly powerful.
It in wanting to work with dogs and help dogs, it can make you vulnerable to unfortunate interactions online. Did any of those include for you the fact that Bunny was a doodle? As somebody who is a professional certified dog trainer who works with doodles, that can be a point of attack that I see sometimes.
Oh yeah, I got a ton
Yeah.
of that. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
a ton of that. Yeah, I got a ton of that. And then I got a poodle, standard poodle. So some of those
Mhm.
people were like, oh, she learned her lesson. And I was like, come on. And I think one of the beautiful things about not knowing anything going into this journey is that I had the capacity to learn so much. And that's what it's all
Mhm.
about. It's like the learning journey, the ability to learn and grow and help others. And that's been a huge part of this for me. And
Yeah.
that's something that I've loved my entire life, is just the process of learning and growing.
Mhm.
And a difficult dog is nothing if not a learning and growth opportunity.
Many layers, like
Yeah,
onions.
many layers.
Yes. A lot of our doodle parents know that their doodle is the cutest in the world. And many create an Instagram or TikTok account for when they're coming home. For dog parents who are thinking about sharing their dog online, what advice would you give them?
I think authenticity is key, right? Don't try and fit into someone else's mold. Share what you love to share because you love to share it because you have this relationship that feels worthy of sharing.
Yeah.
Don't go into it with any sort of expectation. Just share what you love and stay true to yourself. And yeah, be as authentic as possible everywhere, always, forever.
Agree. And what do you think the biggest misconception people have about talking dogs is?
Yeah, I think a lot of people think it's a trained trick or that we're ignoring canine body language. And there are certainly accounts, because this is so widespread now, there are
Yeah.
accounts you'll see where the dogs have a series of swear words and they're clearly being trained to press buttons in a specific order or whatever. So
Hmm.
some of that's out there. There's enough people
Yeah.
doing this now that of course there are going to be aspects of that. But for the vast majority of us, it's not a trick. It's a very powerful tool for deepening our connections, for changing
Hmm.
how we think about living with captive animals, which also changes how we think about communicating with humans. There is a massive trickle down effect here that doesn't just stick in the non human realm. It really does impact our lives a lot more broadly than that.
Yeah.
And again, the ignoring canine body language part couldn't be farther from the truth. This system is the reason that I became a dog trainer. It's the reason that I know so much about behavior, because I was like, what is happening? When she says this word, this happens in her body. I got to know, I have to know everything. I have to
Yeah.
research this. I have to learn as much as I possibly can so that, again, I'm exploring multimodal communication and getting the most holistic picture possible.
Yes, it's not in lieu of. You start there and then it unlocked all of this other study and way of looking at things. We have talked about the buttons you use and a system. Can you share a little bit more about the system that you work with?
I use the FluentPet system. I co-founded the company in 2019 with Leo Trottier, who's a cognitive scientist. And the buttons we use are the small ones. There's all sorts of buttons online and,
Yeah.
and tiles. The ones I use have a speaker on top so that the sound is really clear and loud. So it's not muffled. I can hear it from the other room. And my learners, all of my dogs can hear the sound pretty quickly. We also have a connected system, which is Bluetooth enabled. So every time a button is pressed, it's logged in the app so that you can
Mm.
see patterns, you can track
Ooh, I
data.
like that.
And if you're
Yeah.
outside of the home, you can get a push notification to your phone. So,
Oh,
say you're out of the grocery store, your dog or cat can tell you that they miss you or that they have gone poop. Different use cases for that. And then, of course, because the data is connected through the app, that's really great for the research side of things.
yes, that's brilliant. And your team has worked with us to create a discount for our listeners, Doodle Pro. And if they want, I'll put the link in the show notes if you're interested in exploring the Fluent Pet system. I have one more question for you. If Bunny could press one button about humans, what do you think it would be? What would it
Ugh.
say?
It would be ugh. She is an eye rolling baby. I remember when we were having all of these crews down at the house, she was constantly telling them to go away. She would say, sound settle, which is like, shut
Oh.
up. She would say, sound settle, bye, stranger, go now, all done. And then you could almost see her roll her eyes and just walk away in disgust.
If you wanted to go a different direction, you could have put some curse words on there, and I
Yeah.
think she would have used them.
I think it's fair to say that she would.
Yes. You're thinking about what you would use right now, Bunny.
She is.
I'm going to peek really quick in the comments, and I'm going to share these really quick with you. This is just for afterwards, so barking is welcome. So we've got Bernedoodle mom, Natalie. She's got a sweet pup, and she goes, I need to do that off grid because leash walking is still my biggest challenge with Olive, my big little bucking Bronco. Yeah.
Have you heard of Sniffspot?
So I don't know if Natalie has, but yes, I love it. Go ahead and share your experience with Sniffspot.
Yeah, Sniffspot is an amazing company. So people will rent out their yards. Like some
Yeah.
people have acres and acres that are fully fenced, and you can just rent the space for an hour so that your dog can have an off leash experience. It's really cool. And you can filter by fully fenced, no
Yeah.
chickens, no visible humans, whatever. I highly recommend Sniffspot.
It's great for people downtown who don't have a place that they can go off leash or reactive pups who a dog park is their nightmare. And yeah, just to be able to have that enriching experience. And I know you moved off the grid, but even downtown, you could still be more of a partner, letting your dog sniff and letting them explore, and it not just be you're trying to get your cardio and we need to stay in a heel and get moving.
Absolutely.
Yes. Natalie said, did you make your own buttons or buy one already made? So Natalie, I will share with you the link to FluentPet. In the beginning, I imagine you made your own when you first started?
I was
Or did you find
using,
some?
in the beginning, I was using these big buttons that I found on Amazon.
Yeah.
And they took up the entire floor space, and the sound wasn't great. And they were breaking all the time, and Bunny would reset them. And yeah. So
Yeah.
definitely, if you're thinking of expanding a little bit, it's nicer to have the smaller buttons because they're not going to take up as much floor space. And also, you can mount them on the wall. Some learners prefer to use their nose. There's no rule about what part of their body they should be pressing buttons with. So you can mount them on the wall, you can put them on the floor, or some combination of the two.
Yes. Your setup with the FluentPet one, I remember seeing your older videos with giant ones. It's not taking up your whole house while still
Correct.
giving Bunny lots of things that she can say. Natalie also shared, very much appreciate it. Olive likes mental things, so I don't know how well she likes mental things. I don't know how well she will do, but I'd love to try with her. And Natalie said, thank you so much. I'm not comfortable with pinch collars. So many are going to use. I refuse to go there. Natalie has been fighting the good fight with trying to use science-based positive reinforcement training, even though many others direct her to do differently. And she's just been a beautiful example. Her Bernedoodle puppy had a difficult first time at the groomers. She took it so slow and got a mobile groomer, like really got there, got some meds on board. And because as with your poodle and Sheepadoodle, there's a lifetime of grooming ahead of them. And it's just wonderful to have like compassionate pet parents that partner with their dog.
Absolutely. The system has been really good for that too, because you can add a brush button and you can label body parts so that they know what's coming. There's so much to be said for predictability, right?
Yes.
Even if you're not using the buttons, but just talking to your learner saying brush, shoulder, brush, back, just so that they're not just what's going to happen to me. There's a little bit of predictability built in there that can cause or that can create a little bit more calm around this
And
scenario.
that's true cooperative care with husbandry. That's beautiful. Alexis, I am so grateful for your time. You've been really generous with us. And where can people find you and follow Bunny and your adventures together?
Yeah, I'm on all social media platforms at What About Bunny. You can find information about the buttons at fluent.pet. We've got a ton of learning resources as well if you're interested in learning more about getting started. And then, of course, I have a book as well that I published 3 years ago. It's called I Am Bunny, How a Talking Dog Taught Me Everything I Need to Know About Being Human.
I really look forward to reading that and sharing that with our audience. I think it's the perfect fit for our doodle parents. And our Honor Society member, Natalie, said, thank goodness for you all. I have learned so much. I wish I was younger and became a trainer. It's wonderful doing this with them, and you bond so much more. I completely agree, Natalie, and it's not too late. Just saying. Yes.
Correct.
Thank you so much, Alexis. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. This has been a total blast.
And to you listening right now, I'll leave you with this. When Alexis pictured the one button Bunny would press about us humans, it was simply, ugh. Your doodle is almost certainly thinking something just as hilarious and just as honest. They just don't have the words yet. And maybe, just maybe, you're the one who gives it to them. Before you go, if Bunny's story lit you up the way it lit me up, here's your one next step. Start your own button journey with Nestle and me. Doodle Pro Nation gets 12% off FluentPet with the code DoodlePro at thedoodlepro.com/shop/FluentPet. It's an affiliate link, so it tosses a few extra treats in Nestle's bowl at no cost to you. Come find me on social and show me your doodle's very first word.